In this episode of the English Right Now podcast, we're exploring something at the heart of British life, the UK High Street. The High Street is more than just a shopping area. In my opinion, it's a cultural symbol. And this is an English language learning podcast in which you'll learn at least 10 pieces of related and interesting vocabulary. We say at least because it is a real conversation with my dear friend Rob. Hello.
Hello.
Your hellos are getting more and more abstract as times get on. I love it. More and more unusual as times go on. But hello, Rob. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you very much, Roy. I've got my shopping bags ready, off for a visit to the High Street.
Very nice. Very nice. And today's mug, as I seem to have started drinking from different mugs each podcast, that's a tradition that may get very expensive and worrying on the space. But today I've got some Highland Cattle on a mug.
That's lovely, that is. Did you buy that on the High Street?
I didn't. I bought it in a supermarket, but that's what we're going to talk about today. So the High Street is it's not one of our key pieces of vocabulary, but it's the main shopping street in a town or city in the UK, the High Street. How often do you go to the High Street to do your shopping?
Well, this is an interesting one. I go to the High Street quite a lot, but I don't do my main shopping there. I might get bits and pieces. The food shopping and things like that come from a big supermarket out of town. So, yeah, a High Street is more just a place to go, really, maybe for a cup of coffee or to buy one or two things. That's what I use the High Street for. But it's a nice place to go, particularly if you live in a nice town with a nice High Street, a nice selection of shops, and maybe some, a bench you can sit on and some nice flowers and that kind of stuff. It's a nice place to head for sometimes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Traditionally, the High Street sort of the social and economic centre of town. You met people there, you saw people that you knew, especially if you lived in a small town. You would all kind of go and hello, and it was kind of a community centre, a centre of town. And these days it's changing a lot. We can talk about that. We can talk about how it's changing and whether it's for the best, better or worse. But yeah, you said a few bits and pieces. You can also say a few bits and bobs, which is a few odd things. I agree. These days, the High Street, I always say it's mainly sort of hairdressers and barbers. Hairdressers are a more general word, and barbers specifically for males, technically. Hairdressers, barbers, coffee shops, and pubs, and that seems to be about it.
Well, you've missed one other thing, because the High Street is changing and lots of shops are closing down. But what seems to take the place of a shop is what we call a charity shop, don't we?
Yes.
Where people sell second-hand things to raise money for charity.
Yes, that's absolutely a great piece of vocabulary. I love a charity shop. Like you say, people donate things to a charity. So there are multiple, could be a dog charity, could be a cancer-related charity, could be lots of different things. They donate their things that they don't want anymore. And then this charity shop sell the donated item to raise money for that specific charity. I love a charity shop.
No, I agree. I mean, it's a good way of recycling stuff rather than just throwing it away in the rubbish dump. It's a way of recycling your items so somebody else can find good use for it. Plus, it raises money for charity. And yeah, you can find some real bargains, can't you, in a charity shop?
A bargain is something very affordable, that's cheaper than maybe you'd expect. A bargain, absolutely. And I think one thing that it's really intriguing, people make fun of this, but it's true, that people go, I like your boots, and they'll say charity shop. People love a charity shop. £10 charity shop. It's like the only time we really talk about money is when we got a bargain from a charity shop. Or people are really proud of where'd you get that charity shop? I just got this from, it's almost like a look at the bargain I found.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, can I just say, going back to the High Street, you mentioned it's got lots of coffee shops. Again, even more coffee shops than there used to be, I think. Charity shops, barbers and hairdressers. In a traditional high street, I suppose you get something like a newspaper shop used to sell
Yes.
newspapers, maybe a sweet shop.
Newspaper shop, or we sometimes say a newsagent, don't we? A
Newsagent,
newsagent, which is a small shops selling newspapers, magazines, sweets, and sort of everyday items.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I
And
was
then,
being a bit flippant when I said it's just coffee shops and hairdressers, barbers, and pubs. But you're right. It's more of a stereotype that these are the shops that are taking over.
oh well,
Because
I was going to say
yeah.
another one that's taken over our high street near us. Nail bars, lots of nail bars
Oh,
where people
okay.
can have their nails, toenails, fingernails, polished and varnished. They seem to be a lot of those now. And the other one, controversially, vape shops selling
Oh,
vape.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also that's where people buy the kind of, because cigarettes are either very expensive or people don't buy them anymore. Smoking culture's gone, but people do buy vapes or refills for vapes. Not something that I've really ever been interested in, to be honest. And the other thing you do see quite a bit of is bookies. That's a slang term for places where you can go to gamble. We don't have as many in our main town on the Isle of Wight. I was looking for some the other day just to kind of get a bit of frame reference, but
Of course.
but yeah. Again, I've got better things to I think gambling is not my favorite activity.
Yeah, we're talking here about betting shops. Yeah, bookies.
Yes,
You can go and
we
put a
call them
bet on a
bookies, don't
horse
we?
race, something like that. And the
Horse
other thing
races,
that's
the football.
the other thing that's quite useful on the high street, you get there is a chemist, don't you?
I'm glad you mentioned that word. It wasn't one of our key vocabularies, pieces of vocabulary, but a chemist. Technically, what we should call it is a pharmacy. A pharmacy, because they sell. There technically should be a pharmacy, but most British people refer to this place as a chemist or a chemist's. And I've seen this debated quite a lot on social media. I know it's a pharmacy, but for years it was called Boots the Chemists. That's one of the bigger sort of chains, a brand. A chain store is basically a shop that's part of a large company with many branches. Like a supermarket chain would be Tesco's, a chemist chain would be Boots. Boots the Chemists, a lot of people called it, and they just sort of rebranded as Boots, I think. But yeah, the chemists, you see chemists, and there are sometimes independent shops. An independent shop is a small, locally owned business, which is not part of a chain. You do get some independent shops, but that's the vast majority of shops. There are some other ones, maybe toy shops, bookshops, these sort of things, but that seems to be the vast majority, in my opinion, these days. Certainly where I live, because it's changing, isn't it?
Well, it is changing, yeah. So you have your sort of typical shops, as we've mentioned already. Then you've got the vape shops and things like that. But of course, it's online shopping, isn't it? Has changed things, I think. We buy a lot of stuff now online. It's convenient, it's easier, and sometimes cheaper than actually going to the shop and finding it. Therefore, shops have changed. They've either closed down, become charity shops, or their usage has changed, hasn't it? I think that's why the high street is always changing. It never stays the same.
We forgot banks. We do see banks, but a lot of banks are kind of, there aren't as many banks as there once was. I think a lot of banks are sort of closing branches. Branches are basically a part of the chain of the bank. One bank, a branch, and they maybe have one in the region rather than 3 or 4. So that's changing a bit. And a lot of these banks, these old buildings, the banks, the post office, they get taken over by sometimes pubs, and they convert them into a kind of pub. I'm thinking of Wetherspoons. To be honest, that's a brand, a chain, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. There's lots of banks. Lots of banks have become pubs. So yeah, you can go drinking on the high street, can't you? You can drink coffee, but you can also go and drink alcohol on the high street if you want. The other thing, of course, they have on our high street, they have markets. They still have market stalls once a week, maybe. Very old towns still have an area called the marketplace, don't they? A square area where there's only for pedestrians, not for cars. Usually in the centre of the high street, a marketplace, and then once a week, lots of local producers come and sell their goods, whether it's fruit or veg, cakes, flowers, or sometimes more sort of generic things like socks or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have your weekly market, or a more specialist one is a farmer's market,
Yes.
where local farmers actually still come and sell some of their produce.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's yeah. I don't know if there is a market on the Isle of Wight actually. There must be markets, but we'll talk about that. But it's changed a lot. You're right.
Mm.
Where I grew up, and I remember there being markets on the Isle of Wight as well. Maybe it's the season. I'm not sure. I'll have to do some digging into that one. Digging when we investigate. But yeah, traditionally, let's talk about what the high street used to be when we
Mm.
were children in the Victorian age. Not that long ago, merely. But a few years ago, I mean, let's talk about some of the traditional shops. You used
Mm.
to have a greengrocer,
Yeah.
which was a shop that sells fresh fruit and vegetables. What else did we used to have?
Oh, we had a tobacconist. Do you remember a
Oh, God.
tobacconist who would
I
sell
do.
tobacco and cigarette? I wouldn't go there, of course, because I was too young. But they would sell
Hmm.
cigarettes and tobacco. Yeah, the tobacconist.
You'd have a butcher's that sold meat,
Yeah.
meat, sausages, things like that. And quite traditionally, you see like an animal, like a pig, on a hook in the window, or not in the window, in the back of the butcher's.
Mm.
Um, what else? We quite commonly you'd have things like off licenses. Sometimes people say offie. You still get these,
Mm.
but these were shops that are licensed to sell alcohol for people to take away, an
Yeah.
off license. And they often sort of combined with that newsagent that we were talking about earlier,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
was a small shop selling newspapers. Can you think of any other traditional kind of
Yeah.
shop?
The bakery. There was
Oh
always a
God.
bakery where you buy your bread and your
Mm,
cakes, things like that. And you still get some now, but
yes.
not as many as you used to. Yeah.
I think these shops still exist in places that are a bit more upmarket.
Mm.
That's what I would say. Like, if the area is potentially a bit more affluent, they will still have these independent shops, and they'll still have greengrocers, news agents are pretty much everywhere, but estate agents as well. We forgot to mention
Yeah.
estate
Yeah.
agents who basically sell houses. You see those, but you go to these sort of more upmarket areas, affluent areas, richer areas, basically, and you still see butchers, greengrocers, cheese shops,
Yeah.
wine shops, things like this. But in the vast majority of English towns, it's changed, like you say, because of online shopping, but also I would say out of town retail parks.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
so that's a key piece of vocabulary. A retail park is a group of large shops, often out of the town, with big car parks. They're usually huge places, huge shops, maybe 5 or 6 on this kind of big car park, basically.
Yeah.
Um, so that's taken a lot of sort of footfall. Footfall
Mm.
is like people entering. It's taken a lot of people footfall away from the high street as well. Retail parks.
Yeah, people have said that they've killed off the high street, these retail
Yes.
parks, because but again, it's more convenient because you can drive, you can park usually for free at these big shops, and you've got a variety of big shops there. You can walk around and get back in your car and drive home. So we have big supermarkets out of town, don't we? Big out of town
Yeah.
supermarkets,
Yes.
a DIY store where you can buy
Yeah.
stuff to DIY, do it yourself, like paint, um, things like that to do up your houses. What else have they got in a retail park?
Did you mention electronics and pet shops? Huge
Yes.
pet shops. Yeah.
Yeah.
Often these kind of home. Yeah. A lot of these sort of places that you can buy furnishings and uh, yeah. There's a lot of those on retail parks. Now different to shopping centres. Shopping
Mm.
centres is a specific building that houses a lot of different shops. Now, notice that we say shopping centre in British English, and we spell centre re at the end, whereas Americans say shopping mall. We don't usually use the word mall unless we're trying to be a bit different.
Yes.
But shopping centres, and they're usually a little bit out of town, especially the big ones that you see in
Oh,
places like Stratford and Sheffield.
well, I mean, I've got a massive one near me called Blue Water, which is almost a town in its own right. It's a purpose-built, massive shopping centre with all the brands you need and want. big shops, lots of cafes and things like that, and cinemas as well. So you can have a whole day. I mean, it's my
Yeah.
idea of hell, but it's it's a whole day out. You can shop, you can eat, you can go to the cinema. It's all under one roof.
Yeah.
It's all bright and clean and modern. So for some people, it's a day out in its own right.
And you're right. People do go there for the day. They go there and they'll go and have lunch there, and they'll go and watch a film, and they'll do some shopping, and then there are activity places for children and stuff like this. And I suppose in a way that's kind of the thing that you see in American films with these kids going to the mall, as they call it. And we're sort of doing the same now, more as families as well, and teenagers will be meeting there. People will meet up. Oh, let's meet at Blue Water, or let's meet at the these kind of things. We do have a form of shopping centre in the centre of town, but they're usually called shopping arcades. It's usually a kind of one. It's again under a roof, and it's usually like sort of one lane between bigger buildings, and it's got lots of little, usually independent shops. On it, but they're called shopping arcades. They're a bit different.
Yes, they're not massive shops, as you say. There's just a collection of shops undercover. But you couldn't do all your shopping there. But I still like the idea of the high street. I say it's still more, I don't know, friendly. It's not so daunting. You haven't got all these massive shops and bright lights. And it's a social thing as well. Yeah, you go out with the family, or you meet friends in the high street and you have a cup of coffee, and then you might nip into the newsagents to buy a newspaper, or you might go to the chemist to buy something. But it's not, as we said at the start, it's not for your massive big shop. No. It's just for either buying small items or browsing, just having a look.
Browse is a good word that a good piece of vocabulary. Browse is just have a look. Sometimes if we go in a shop, these sort of, it's not as common as it once was actually, but some people will pounce on you. Do you need any help? No, I'm just browsing. It means I'm just having a look. It's a great save word to get out of somebody basically trying to sell you something. I'm just browsing. Yes. Okay, let me know if you need anything. Just having a look. Yeah, go for a browse. Or sometimes we just go to window shop. Window shop was a key piece of vocabulary as well, which is where we go. We look at, traditionally it was looking at at things in shop windows without buying anything. Probably most shop owners' nightmares, to be honest, if you go window shopping. What are you doing today? Just window shopping. At least maybe traditionally you wouldn't go in the shop. People do go in the shop and just browse and don't buy anything, which must be quite frustrating. But the other thing as well, I would say, that's sort of changed the high street are these huge supermarkets. So we've got retail parks, we've got shopping centres, we've got these supermarkets, often containing cafes as well. But they sell everything. Some of them, but some of these big ones, you can buy phones in there, you can buy electronic goods, you can buy everything, food, things like that. And that's kind of killed the high street a little bit as well. Because we had this rise of these what we call pound stores, and people, you could get stuff very cheaply, but they're equally as cheap in these supermarkets. So it's easier to take your car to a supermarket and fill up your car there with the bags, then maybe go to the high street and have to carry bags around. So that's changing the high street again. The other thing we do get few of are pawn shops. Shops where you can take something like old video games or stuff and trade it for money or credit to buy something else in the shop. But yeah, you are right. I miss the high street for what it was. A lot of people say save the high street. Do you think do you think we can save it?
I think it's very hard. I mean, I'd say it needs to reinvent itself all the time and keep up with the trends. Coffee shops, say, a very popular thing in the high street now because people like to go out and spend their money on coffee, don't they? And drink. So that's a kind of new thing to the high street. Lots of coffee shops, as long as it keeps reinventing itself and has a purpose. But I don't think you'll ever get rid of online shopping because it's become such an easy way to shop. Find a bargain, get it delivered to your house. I mean, you might never leave your house again and do your shopping online. That would be very sad, though.
I think maybe a cultural thing, but probably a more human thing, that you naturally go to these places like a supermarket and you instantly look on your phone to see if it's cheaper online. Quite often, maybe with video games and things like this, you can find it cheaper online, so you don't buy even in the supermarket. So the supermarket has taken a hit from online shopping as well. Of course, we still need food, so we do that there, but we sometimes actually shop online as well with an app.
Yes.
We order an app.
Yeah, I know. So it's interesting, the future of the high street, how it will look. But I'm glad to say that our high street is still thriving and still existing and still surviving.
Is that because you live in an affluent area?
That could have something to do with it.
Have you got a cheese shop?
It's a good point though, Roy, because there are some less affluent and poorer places where the high street can look quite depressing.
Yeah.
Shops are boarded up, boards on the windows because it's closed down and nobody else wants to move in. There's litter blowing in the streets. It just doesn't feel very loved, and that
it looks like the apocalypse sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I watch some. I quite enjoy these sort of travel vlogs where they go to British cities and towns. And I saw one the other day that said, "I've been here for 20 minutes. I haven't seen a single boarded up shop or empty shop." And I thought, oh god, is that how how life has come now? It got to that we're thinking like, how exciting! There's no abandoned shops, But the thing I love about the high street, I have to say, is there are, there's still a lot with like really old, centuries old pubs, churches, and even shop fronts. And it has this really unique character in some places. Some have been saved, like my local Weatherspoons just down the road has taken over a church and converted it into a pub. Or actually it was converted before, but they took it over from whoever converted it. And I think that's quite fascinating that these buildings still exist. You still see the traditional shop fronts that maybe have now been changed into a charity shop. I love that. But yeah, I went to Lyndhurst the other day. Have you ever been to Lyndhurst?
I have. That's in the New Forest in Hampshire, yeah.
Very beautiful place, beautiful part of the world. Must be quite affluent because they've got a Ferrari garage there. They sell Ferraris. I didn't buy one. I was thinking, but then I realized money was important. And I don't have Ferrari money. But we'll pretend that it was just because of time. But the high street there was beautiful because there were a lot of independent shops, a lot of shops selling art and pottery and kind of things like this. And I don't know if there was a butcher's. I'm sure there was, but there were all these kind of traditional shops. And I just thought how lovely, lots of traditional pubs and old hotels and things like this. And
yeah, but of course, the truth is, it looks lovely, and we wander around and go, "Isn't this beautiful?" But then you go and buy your sausages at the supermarket because they're cheaper, or you don't actually buy anything, but it looks nice. Again, you do window shopping, but you don't actually buy anything.
You don't know my family. I'll tell you now. We every shop we went into, we bought something. But we're on holiday. I think probably if we lived there. Goodness me, you're right. But I do miss the kind of that traditional high street. But you're right. I'm part of the problem because I will immediately go shopping. I bought something. It got delivered this morning. I bought it online. An electrical device. I bought a camera. And likewise, go shopping. We're going to go to big Tesco's or big Asda. Big Tesco, which is usually the bigger shop. We don't, that's where we shop. And honestly, supermarkets, you say shopping centers, supermarkets are my idea of hell. I always go in these places with a firm idea of what I want. And about 4 hours later, I'm just wandering around a random aisle going, why did I come here? Oh, God, have I overstayed the parking? Things like this. But yeah.
One nice thing about a high street is if it's been pedestrianised, which they've stopped the traffic driving up and down. It means that people can walk freely up and down the street without having to watch out for cars and lorries and things like that. And I think that gives it quite a nice relaxed feel to the high street, makes the shopping experience more fun. So when they've pedestrianised a high street, that's a good thing.
We call it a pedestrianised zone, don't we? So it's an area just for pedestrians, just for people on foot. And it is nice, you're right. My local town, there's like bus lanes going one way and cars going the other. And it could be you really have to look out because it looks like it's one way, but it's not. So but parts of a local town near here called Ryde, that's been pedestrianised. So it is nice, you're right, you're absolutely right. But I think we've and we've talked about whether it can be saved. We talked about it being missed. We've talked a lot about the high street. But if you have any questions or any other suggestions of topics, let us know. And if you want to support this podcast, you could buy a cup of coffee for either Rob or myself. And, a cup of tea. Sorry, I don't know what's a cup of coffee. Cup of tea. We've been talking about coffee shops, cup of tea. The link is down there. But thank you, Rob, for joining me on this one. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
You're welcome. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.